Right now, this button doesn't do anything. In this video, we are going to make our application a little bit more interactive. For example, we are going to change the text of this text view by clicking on this button. For that, we need to define this text view in our Java file so that we could have access to its attributes. But before I go further to my Java file, I'm going to switch to full screen so that you won't be distracted with all of my icons down in here. If you go to this view option in here, down here at the bottom, you can see that we have few options. I'm going to go to full screen. For the rest of the course, I'm going to stay with full screen. Okay, let's switch to our main activity.java file. As I said in the previous video, you can see that we have some code written in here. And that's because when we created our project, we have selected the empty activity project. For that, now we have an empty activity which has an activity main.xml file and also main activity.java file. In future, we will see that we can create all of these files if we select no activity at the time of creating our project, but in here we have these codes written to this level. Also, we have this plus sign in here beside this import. If you click on that, you can see that we have imported some packages to this class. If you want, you can always minimize and maximize that import, and for that matter, you can minimize and maximize all of your methods. For now, I'm going to leave these imports like this so that we can see what we are importing into our Java file. Don't be worried about all of the new keywords that you are seeing in here. For example, this public, class, extends, protected, void. We will talk about all of them later on in the course, but for now just know that this onCreate method is going to be the start point of our application. It means that when we run our application, the codes inside these two curly braces is going to be the code that will run first. Once again, don't worry about the term method that I used. We will talk about that later on in the course. So inside this onCreate method, two things are happening. We have this super.onCreate. We are not going to talk about that right now. And after that, we are setting some content views. By setting content views, we are accessing to the activity main file. You can see that we have this activity main in here. Basically, it means that this Java class is somehow related to this activity main layout file. We will talk in more depth about this later on in the course, but for now just know that up until this point in our code, we have said that this Java file is related to this layout file. After that, we can write the codes that we need. For example, in here, I'm going to access to that text view that we have created in the previous video. For that, I can say text view. As you can see, when I type something, IntelliJ, the IDE behind the Android Studio, is suggesting me some options. There are a lot of options in here, but the one that I need is going to come from Android.widget package. So in Java, we have classes equivalent to the UI elements or user interface elements in our layout file. If we are going to define a button, we have that class in Java file as well. In here, we are going to use text view, so we can import that in our project as well. As you can see, a new line of code has been added to our imports. This line of code is importing the text view from the widget package into our Java file. Next, I need to name my text view. The name is optional and you can name it whatever you want. For example, in here, I'm going to say txt hello. This is just a basic convention. You can name your class whatever you want, but we will talk about conventions later on in the course. After naming your text view, you need to locate the text view from inside the layout file. And the way to do that is like this. You can say is equal to. There is a helpful method in every activity that is useful for finding different views by their IDs. And that method is named findViewById. Once again, this method is useful to find different views, different user interface elements from your layout files by their ID. Inside the parentheses of this method, we need to pass the ID of our text view from inside our layout file. And the way to do that is like this. We can type R. R is a special class in Java which will give us the access to all of our resources, our static files in our project. Once again, it stands for resources. Let's select that. We can say r.id. After that, we need to add the ID of our text view, which was txt message, I believe. This ID in here should be the exact ID that you have put inside your layout file. For this text view, you can see that the ID is txt message. and we are using that to have access to our text view. So this way, by using this find view by ID method and after that passing the ID in this shape, now we have access to our text view. But you can see that there is one more error in here, and that's because in Java, every time you write a sentence, you need to finish your sentences with a semicolon. That's just syntactical and it really doesn't matter. Some languages does not require this semicolon, but in Java, you need to put a semicolon at the end of every sentence. Okay, now up to this point, we have our text view in our Java file. Now we can use it. For example, if we want to change the text of our text view, we can say something like this. We can type the name of our text view, which is txt hello. After that, we can say dot. Don't worry about this dot operator. We will talk about it in the next section, in the Java section. But for now, just know that when you are typing dot on an object, you have access to all of its methods and attributes. For example, in here, I can say set text. Once again, you can see that we have multiple options. Let's import the first one. Inside the parentheses of this method, we need to pass a text. And whenever you are going to pass a text statically, whenever you are going to hard code the text, you need to pass it inside double quotations. Let's pass a double quotation. Inside this double quotation, I'm going to say hello. This way, now we have changed the text of our text view. Let's run the application and see if it's going to work. Remember that inside our activity main layout file, the text is hello world. Inside our Java file, we are changing it to hello. Let's run the application. As you can see in here, the text of our text view has been changed to hello. Still, our application is not interactive. We want to change the text when we click on this button, not when we run the application. For that, we need to define an event listener, to be precise, an onClick listener for this button, so that when we click on this button, the text of our text view changes. There are multiple ways of defining an onClick listener for our button. The simplest one is to do that inside your main activity layout file. If you come down in here, inside your button element, inside the anchor brackets of your button, if you type onClick, you can see that we have an option in here. Let's pass a name in here. For example, I'm going to say on btn click. This name in here is going to be the name of a method in our Java file. As you can see right now, we are getting a red warning. It says that there is no such method in your Java file. Let's copy the name from here and let's go to our main activity and create that method. So in order to create a method, we need to do that outside of the scope of this onCreate method and inside the curly braces of this class. I'm talking about these two. We need to define our method inside this class. And the way to do that is like this. We can say public void, after that the name of our method, which is on btn click, a pair of parentheses. Because it's going to be the onClick listener for our button, we need to accept a view in here. Don't worry about this view in here. We will talk about all of these in Java session. Let's name this view. After that, we need a pair of curly braces for our method. And in here, we need to put the code that we need to execute when the user clicks on our button. If you switch back to your activity main.xml file, now you can see that the red error has been disappeared. Okay, let's go to main activity.java file. I'm going to change the text of our text view to hello when the user clicks on our button. So for that matter, I'm going to move these two lines of code to inside this method. You can probably guess the behavior of our application right now. Let's run it once again and see how is it going to work. You can see that the text still says hello world. If we click on our button, the text will change to hello. This is okay, but this is not entirely what we want. It's just saying hello right now. We want to say hello to the exact user. For example, we are going to get the name of our user, and by clicking a button, we are going to say, for example, hello Mason, hello Tom, and something like that. We are going to get the user's input. The way to get the user's input is by using some element in our UI called edit text. Let's switch to design view. You can add an edit text into your project by going to this text option in here. You can see that we have multiple options. The first one is for text view. We have seen the text view. It's this hello world text. After that, we have other options, plain text, password, email, and all of these. These are all helpful for when you want to get different kind of users input, but for our purpose in here, we are going to use plain text. Plain text is just a simple text that we are going to get from the user. Let's drag that into our view. If you take a look at the attributes in here, you can see that its ID is edit text. Let's quickly change that. Let's say edit.txt name. Because we are inside a constraint layout, we also need to constraint this edit text as well. But before that, I'm going to change the top constraint of this button. I'm going to change its constraint from the bottom of this text view to the bottom of this edit text. For that, I am going to drag the top constraint of this button to the bottom of this edit text. Now let's add some other constraints for this edit text as well. For example, for the top, I'm going to constrain it to the bottom of my text view. And also for the edges, I'm going to go to the edges of a screen. Right now, it's too close to our text view. If you want, we can add some margins. For example, in here, I'm going to say 70. That seems to be better. The other attribute that every edit text has is this text in here. I'm talking about this attribute in here. You can see that right now it says name. If you want, you can change that, but in here I'm going to completely delete that. Instead, I'm going to define some hints. You can see this hint attribute in here. The difference between hint and text is that when you click on your edit text, the hint will be deleted. It's just a hint for the user to know that what he or she is going to enter inside this edit text. For example, in here, I'm going to say name. You can see that it's somehow grayed out. Okay, now we have an edit text inside our layout file. Inside our Java file, we need to have access to this edit text so that we could get the user's input. Once again, the start point of our activity and our application is this onCreate method. So we can do that inside this onCreate method. We can have access to our edit text like we did for this text view. We can say edit text. Once again, you can see that we have an equivalent class for this edit text as well. Also, if you take a look at in here, you can see that this line of code has been added to our class as well. Let's say edit text, edit.txt name. Like before, we can say is equal to find view by ID. And once again, we need to pass the ID of our edit text, which I can say r.id.edit.txt name. To this point, we have defined our edit text. Now we need to get the text of our edit text. For that, we can say edit text name dot get text. You can see that we have this option. But this is not enough. We also need to do another level of conversion, and we do that by saying .toString. Don't worry about this toString method yet. We will talk about that later on in the course. It's just for converting whatever the text is inside our edit text to a text that we can use in our Java file. Don't worry about that, we will talk about it later on. But there is a problem with our code in here. We are going to get the user's name and we are going to say hello to the user when we click on the button. For that, we need to have access to this edit text inside our onButtonClick method. But if you try to do that, for example, if you say edit text name, you can see that everything is in red. It means that you don't have access to that edit text inside this method. And that's because something called a scope in Java. The scope of this edit text is this onCreate method within the curly braces of this onCreate method. We can't have access to this element from inside our onButtonClick method. In order to solve that problem, we need to move these two lines of code to inside our onButtonClick method. Let's quickly do that. Inside our onButtonClick method, let's paste them. But right now we are not doing anything with the user's input. We are getting the user's input, but we are not doing anything with that. We need to pass this line of code to the setText method. Let's quickly delete this line of code, and inside the parentheses of this setText method, I'm going to pass that. I'm going to say edit text name dot get text dot toString. This way we are setting the text of our text view to whatever the text is inside our edit text. Let's quickly run the application and see if it's going to work. This is how our application and this edit text looks right now. If we click on that, you can see that we can type something. For example, let's type my name. And if we click on our button, the text of our text view changes to Mason. This is not entirely what we wanted. We wanted to say hello to Mason. In order to do that, we need to make some changes to our code. Also notice that I didn't put any double quotation in here. And that's because we are passing this text dynamically to our setText method. If we wanted to pass our text statically, we need to put that inside double quotation, but in here we don't need the double quotation. If we want to say hello to the user, we can say something like this. We can say double quotation. Let's add a plus in here. And inside these double quotations, let's say hello. Also, let's add a space so that we could see everything better. This in here is called concatenation in programming, adding the two texts together. Let's run the application once again, and let's type something in here. Let's say Mesa. By pressing button, this time you can see that the text has been changed to hello Mesa. Our application